My ex-boyfriend proposed to his new girl on the same beach where he dumped me. He didn't know I bought the land last year, and when the tide came in, so did security, with a cease and desist. He said she was his forever, on the exact spot he once dumped me in the sand. She thought it was a fairy tale proposal, but when security showed up with a cease and desist, they both learned whose beach they were standing on. My name's Leah, 32, female, and this is the story of the most surreal, rage-tinted, slow-burn revenge I've ever pulled off. It didn't start as a scheme. It started with heartbreak. Stupid, heavy, breath-stealing heartbreak. The kind that sinks into your bones and makes you question everything about who you are. 3 years ago, I stood barefoot on Clearwater Beach, Florida, mascara bleeding into the corners of my mouth, watching the man I thought I'd marry pace in the sand like he couldn't wait to be rid of me. His name was Carter, 35, and at the time I still thought he was my forever. He had this confidence that bordered on arrogant but charming, clean-cut, surfer's tan, those finance bro loafers without socks kind of guy. We met when I moved to Tampa to open my wellness studio. He came in with his sister for a cold plunge session, and we clicked fast. Too fast, probably. We dated for 4 years. The first 2 were magic. He'd bring me protein muffins and green juice on Saturdays, called me coach, even though I only ever led 3 yoga classes before hiring instructors, said he loved how driven I was. And I was. I'd built the studio from scratch. I was all ambition and iced coffee and hope. He said that turned him on. But then came the slow rot. It started with comments. Babe, maybe don't wear the leggings with holes near the crotch. Or, are you sure you want to post that reel? Your laugh's kinda loud. I laughed it off. I always laughed it off. Because I was in love. Because when you love someone, you let the small stuff slide until it's not small anymore. I thought we were in a weird patch. I blamed stress, business stuff, family stuff. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. That night on the beach, he told me he needed clarity and that I was too intense about the future. I need someone who lets me breathe, Leah, he said, looking out at the ocean like it had answers I didn't. I remember the sound of a kid nearby crying because his sandcastle had collapsed. That's exactly how I felt, like my entire foundation had just caved in. He dumped me right there, on that exact stretch of beach we used to call ours. And I stood there like a ghost after he left, still barefoot, holding a picnic basket that never got opened. I threw the damn thing into the waves and sobbed until I couldn't see straight. For weeks, I couldn't even drive past that area. It was like getting punched in the stomach every time. But grief's weird. It curdles. It hardens. It morphs into something else if you let it. About a year later, I found out the city had rezoned part of that shoreline for private sale. Environmental restrictions had kept most of it untouched. But this one odd stretch, our stretch, was cleared for purchase. A storm had damaged the original dune fencing. Developers weren't interested. Locals didn't even notice. But I did, and I bought it. That same plot of sand where he dumped me? Mine now. He had no idea. Not until the day he tried to rewrite our history with a diamond and a new girl on our beach. If you'd told me 3 years ago that I'd one day own the place where my heart got ripped out, I'd have laughed in your face. But here we are. The land wasn't much. Just a narrow patch of beach with some mangled fencing, a few sea oats, and about 200 feet of shoreline that was legally mine now. It came with a headache of environmental conditions. I had to sign agreements not to develop it, couldn't disturb turtle nests, couldn't build any permanent structures. But I didn't need any of that. I just needed control. I didn't buy it for a view. I bought it for closure, for the poetic, petty satisfaction of owning the scene of my emotional crime. For a while, it was just mine. I'd walk it barefoot at dawn, headphones in, blasting angry breakup anthems while the tide came in. It felt holy, like exorcising ghosts. I let the salt scrub my grief clean. Fast forward to 6 months ago. I'm in my studio stretching between clients when my friend Danny sends me a blurry photo. Is this who I think it is? The text said. The picture? Carter, in khakis, holding hands with a leggy blonde in a white sundress, smiling like a toothpaste ad. They were standing in front of a "Marry Me" sign on my beach. My stomach dropped. My ears rang. I zoomed in. There it was. My mangled fencing in the background. The same sea oats I'd nursed back to health. The same damn rock I once cried on for an hour while eating a melted protein bar. This man had proposed to someone else on my land. He didn't even know it. I showed Danny the land deed I kept in my desk drawer like a talisman. This can't be real, she muttered. Is he trying to reenact your breakup like it was a rehearsal for his next act? I didn't respond. Not right away. Because something deeper than anger was blooming in my chest. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Strategy. I called my lawyer the next morning. Told her everything. She laughed so hard I thought she'd drop her phone. We can send a cease and desist if they try again, she said, especially if they set up anything permanent or try to hold an event. I asked her what would count as event-level interference. Her answer, signs, chairs, music, photographers. Basically, anything more than a stroll would violate the use clause unless they had written permission from me, the landowner. Guess who wasn't going to get that permission? So I waited. I bided my time. I started walking that beach again, more frequently now, always noting new footprints, taking photos of garbage left behind, any sign that someone else was using it like it was theirs. And then last week, it happened. An Instagram reel popped up on my feed. Mutual friends tagged her. Her name's Chelsea, by the way. Carter's new fiancée. The caption? Can't believe I said yes on the beach where he first fell in love with me. Full circle. My throat burned. That was my beach, my trauma, my story. And they were trying to turn it into their damn Hallmark movie. Well, they'd booked the wrong set. The reel went viral in our little Florida bubble. Slow-mo twirls, a drone shot, some acoustic cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. Chelsea had her arms around Carter's neck, giggling while he knelt in the exact spot he dumped me. Same angle, same time of day, same little patch of seagrass, like he was trying to overwrite history. Except history has a title deed now. The next day, I drove out there. Brought my dog, brought coffee, and sure enough, there were fresh footprints again. Champagne corks, a broken folding chair half buried in the sand, a little heart drawn in the dirt with C+C inside it. I stood right in the middle of it and felt this cold calm settle over me. You know when you're so beyond angry your body just goes quiet? Like your nervous system hit some higher plane? That. I snapped pictures, took notes, sent them to my lawyer with the caption, "They're nesting." She responded, "Time to bring in security." Because here's the thing, while I couldn't stop people from walking on the land, I could enforce usage violations. And if someone tried to throw another pop-up engagement, wedding shoot, or God forbid a ceremony on my beach, I had the legal right to shut it down in real time. So I hired a private security team. Quiet, professional guys who patrolled the beach at high tide and low tide twice a day. I gave them laminated cease and desist letters, the property deed, and instructions to escalate only if someone got aggressive. And then I waited. 4 days later, I got the text. They're back. I got there in 15 minutes, and I swear to you, it was like walking onto a scene from a Pinterest board. There were fairy lights, a portable speaker playing John Legend, a photographer with a whole lighting setup. Chelsea was in a white maxi dress again, flower crown and all. Carter was fussing with a cooler full of champagne. They were throwing a second engagement shoot. I let security approach first. I stayed behind the dune line, watching from the shadows like some kind of feral coastal landlord. When the lead guy handed Carter the letter, the look on his face, it was like watching someone realize the horror movies about them. He read it, then read it again. "What is this?" he snapped. "That," the guard said calmly, "is a cease and desist from the landowner. You're trespassing." "I'm not. This is public beach." "Not this section," the guard said. "This land is privately owned." Chelsea was halfway through a pose when Carter stormed back toward her, letter in hand. They whispered, then argued, then she screamed, loud enough that birds scattered. And then, as the tide crept in and fairy lights started to flicker from sea spray, Carter turned around and looked right at me. Recognition hit like a punch. "Leah?" he said, stunned. I smiled. "Oh good, you remember this place. I'd hate for the cease and desist to feel impersonal." He stared at me like I'd crawled out of the ocean to haunt him. "Chelsea?" She just blinked, confused, until Carter finally spat, "She owns the beach." I'll never forget her face. Chelsea's voice shot up 2 octaves. "She owns the what?" I stepped forward then, just enough for the photographer to clock me. He lowered his camera slowly like I was radioactive. Carter tried to say something, but I held up a hand. "Number you don't get to speak. Not here, not anymore." Chelsea turned to him, full meltdown mode. "You said this was special to you, that this was where your soul healed, or whatever the hell you told me." Carter looked like a man trying to assemble IKEA furniture during a house fire. I didn't know. Leah never said anything about buying it." "She shouldn't have to," Chelsea shrieked, pointing at me now. "You said this was our story, our beginning. You told me you brought her here for closure." That made me laugh. Closure. Yeah, Carter always did like to frame his cowardice as personal growth. Chelsea stomped toward me, barefoot in wet sand, mascara already running. "Are you seriously doing this to us right now? Are you that bitter? You mean bitter enough to enforce property law?" I tilted my head. "Yeah, guess so." She looked like she wanted to slap me or cry or both. But then, oh no, it got worse. She reached down, picked up a handful of sand, and threw it at the tide like that was going to fix anything. "You ruined this," she screamed at me. "Not the ocean, not Carter, me." "I didn't ruin anything," I said. "Your boyfriend did. 3 years ago. Right here, same spot, same tide. Only difference is he dumped me on this beach. And now you're out here trying to turn it into your little fairy tale set? Sorry, this one's taken." Security stepped in as Carter started toward me like he wanted to explain. Leah, come on, let's not make this a thing. It's already a thing, I said. You made it a thing when you tried to recycle my trauma for your proposal reel. The photographer, to his credit, started packing up without being asked. Professional man. Knew when a shoot was beyond saving. Chelsea? She was sobbing, sitting cross-legged in the wet sand, holding her flower crown like it had betrayed her. You're just doing this because you're jealous, she wailed. Oh, sweetie, I said, soft as a scalpel. I own the beach. I'm past jealousy. I'm at asset management. Carter's face was the color of sunburned shame. You could have just texted me and robbed myself of this moment? I smiled. Nah. They packed up. Champagne left behind. Lights unplugged. Chelsea stormed off first, nearly slipping in the foam. Carter lingered, looked at me one last time like he wanted to apologize but couldn't find the words. I didn't wait to hear them. When they were gone, I sat right where they'd posed and cracked open the bottle they forgot. Let the waves come up over my toes while I drank their abandoned celebration. Reddit, I didn't expect this post to blow up. I just needed to vent. But now I'm seeing your comments, and y'all are unhinged in the best way. Update 1. All right, y'all asked for it. Here's the update. And buckle up, because apparently owning beachfront real estate turns you into a lightning rod for delusion. First off, I just want to say, I see the comments. Y'all are hilarious, savage, weirdly legal savvy, and deeply invested in my petty little saga. Special shout out to the person who said I should have drawn property of Leah in the sand with a drone. Tempting. And to whoever DM'd me a link to waterproof glitter bombs, I both fear and respect you. But let's get to the real reason I'm back. They came back. With a lawyer. Yeah. So 4 days after the cease and desist incident, after Chelsea sobbed in the surf and Carter looked like a child caught shoplifting, I get an email. Some big firm-looking Gmail signature. Words like unjust interference, emotional distress, and right to public access. Apparently, Chelsea's family was furious. Turns out they'd already booked that section of the beach, illegally, through some pop-up wedding coordinator, who never even checked land ownership. They'd put down a deposit on a rehearsal dinner at a beachside Airbnb, had a tent rental set up for later that week, even paid for a goddamn violinist to stand in the dunes and play Perfect by Ed Sheeran. And now, their whole wedding was unraveling. The email politely asked me to reconsider, offered a modest fee to share the space amicably. I almost choked on my coffee, but it got better. The next morning, Carter called me. I don't even know how he got my number again. Maybe from an old contact card, maybe from mutual friends. All I know is my phone lit up with Carter and I stared at it like it was possessed. I let it go to voicemail. The message? Him, sounding like he was reading a script written by Chelsea's mother and also held at gunpoint. Hey Leah, I wanted to reach out personally and apologize again for the misunderstanding. I know emotions were high the other day, but I really think there's a chance for us to resolve this maturely. Chelsea's been really upset. This place meant a lot to us too. That word stuck in my throat like sandpaper. They wanted to use my beach. Again, after all that, after stealing my history and trying to Photoshop themselves over it. So I replied, formally, through my lawyer. We cited the specific ordinance they violated, the environmental restrictions they ignored, the liability they risked, and included photo evidence of their event setup. Then we added this. The landowner declines all future requests for use of the property. Any further unauthorized presence will be treated as trespassing and handled accordingly. Chelsea's response came 3 hours later. Not a lawyer, not Carter. Her, directly, on Instagram. In my DMS. All caps. You ruined everything. I hope your beach gets eaten by a hurricane. Then she blocked me. So yeah, I guess I'm the villain in her fairy tale now. But if you're gonna rewrite history, maybe don't do it on land owned by the original protagonist. They say revenge is best served cold, but I disagree. Mine was warm, soaked in salt water and cheap champagne, and it tasted like vindication. So after Chelsea's all-caps tantrum and digital door slam, I figured that was the end of it. Wrong. I'd underestimated just how far delusional people will go when their curated fantasy hits a brick wall of reality and property law. 3 days later, I'm at the studio mid-class when Danny rushes in holding her phone like it's on fire. Leah, she whispers, you need to see this. Chelsea's mom, full Facebook meltdown. She posted a long, unhinged paragraph about entitled young women who weaponize land ownership to sabotage love, and how someone, me, unnamed but heavily hinted, was gatekeeping a public resource for personal vendetta. It had shares, comments, sympathy, and then photos from that day on the beach of me standing near the dunes, taken secretly, zoomed in and grainy, but unmistakably me, holding their forgotten champagne, smiling. They made it look like I crashed their shoot. like I was some deranged ex who stormed the beach to ruin their moment. I was shaking. Not out of fear, out of pure fury. Because now, it was personal. See, Chelsea's family wasn't rich, but they were connected. Her mom ran in these local social circles, church brunch committees, HOA boards, small business clubs. Suddenly, I had clients canceling with vague excuses, sponsors dropping out of wellness events. One of my yoga instructors quit without notice, all because of whispers. And that's when I remembered something. The drone. See, Carter loved toys. Back when we were together, he bought this fancy drone for creative real estate marketing. Really, he just liked flying it over the beach to record cinematic shots of us walking or kissing or laying in the sand. I used to roll my eyes, but I never deleted the files. I still had them. Hours of footage from our relationship, including a clip, dated, time-stamped, from the day he dumped me, of me crying in the exact spot where he later proposed to Chelsea. And suddenly, I had an idea, not for revenge, for truth. I contacted a local documentary filmmaker, someone who specializes in small-town human interest stories, told her everything. The beach, the breakup, the land purchase, the unauthorized proposal, the cease and desist, the smear campaign. I gave her access to the drone footage, the legal documents, the messages, everything. She was hooked. We filmed interviews. I walked her through the beach, showed her where it happened, talked honestly about heartbreak, about reclaiming space, about women being told to let it go, while men get to rewrite history unchallenged. We didn't name Chelsea or Carter. We didn't need to. The story stood on its own. And when the mini-doc dropped online, it exploded. I'll tell you exactly what happened next, because the backlash? Oh my God. The video dropped on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, my inbox was flooded. Strangers, clients, former high school classmates I hadn't talked to in a decade. Messages like, "I cried watching this," and "This is exactly what healing looks like." And my personal favorite, "If Chelsea's mom says one more word, I will personally knit you a crown out of cease and desist letters." The short film was called The Beach I Bought Back. Tasteful, emotional, empowering. It didn't go mega viral, not at first, but it hit local. Hard. Every Tampa Instagram influencer with a yoga mat shared it. Wellness blogs picked it up. My studio got new bookings. Brands reached out. Suddenly, I was the one being asked to speak at events Chelsea's mom used to run. And Chelsea went nuclear. That Thursday, I was opening the studio when I heard yelling outside. Loud, shrill, desperate yelling. I peeked out the front door and there she was. Chelsea, standing in the parking lot, barefoot again, wearing a hoodie and pajama shorts, looking unhinged in the Florida humidity. She was holding her phone, waving it like a weapon. "You manipulative bitch," she screamed. "You turned this into your personal sob story? You think people feel sorry for you?" I stepped outside slowly, phone in hand, already recording. "Go home, Chelsea. You made me a joke. People are commenting on my engagement photos, calling me a stolen scene. You don't get to paint yourself as some hero." She was sobbing now, but in that messy, mascara-dripping way that looks more like a breakdown than grief. "Your fiancé stole my breakup and turned it into a proposal," I said calmly. "I just told the truth." "That beach was ours," she shouted. "No, Chelsea. It was never yours. It was mine. You just borrowed it." That's when she lunged. No joke. She rushed me, like hands out, screeching. Security, who I'd kept on retainer for weekends just in case, intercepted her mid-swing. She started shrieking, full banshee mode, accusing me of ruining her wedding, her reputation, her life. I didn't even flinch, just stood there, silent, watching the tide roll in behind her like it was clapping for the scene. She got escorted off the property. Police got called. No charges, yet, but I filed a restraining order that day. And my lawyer? She was already building a harassment case, collecting screenshots, messages, everything. That night, I watched the sunset from my beach. Champagne in one hand, dog curled beside me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was done. But Reddit, the story's not quite over. Because what happens when a guy who tried to erase you finally realizes the whole world just watched you rewrite the ending? Update 2. Okay, deep breath. He called me, again, but not like before. This time, Carter wasn't smug. He wasn't, "Let's handle this maturely, Carter," or even panic mode post-Chelsea meltdown Carter. He was broken. It was 2 weeks after the documentary dropped. I was at the beach, my beach, drinking coffee and reading a book when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail because I'm not a lunatic. Here's what he said, word for word. "Leah, it's Carter. I know I have no right, but I just found out Chelsea called your studio. I didn't know she was going to do that. I didn't know she was stalking your socials or showing up like that. I'm sorry, I know. Sorry means nothing right now, but everything's kind of imploding. She's gone. Like, she left. Canceled the wedding. Said I embarrassed her. My job My boss saw the video. People are treating me like I'm the villain, and maybe I am, but I need to ask you something. Please call me back. I wouldn't if it weren't important. I listened to it 3 times, then just sat there staring at the waves. The irony? The waves always come back. I didn't call him, but I did message him. One line. Whatever it is, say it here. He replied within seconds. I'm being sued. Chelsea's family is claiming I misled them about the beach use, that I cost them thousands in lost deposits. They're trying to pin it on me. I thought maybe you could tell the truth, that you bought it after we broke up, that I didn't know. Please, let me tell you something, Reddit. There was a moment, about 5 seconds, where I felt a flicker of sympathy, but then I remembered that day on the beach. I remembered his words. I need someone who lets me breathe. I remembered him pacing like my love was suffocating, dumping me like I was a job application he regretted submitting. So I took a breath, and I replied, Carter, I'm not getting involved. You didn't protect me when I was falling apart. You don't get my help now that you're crumbling. Actions have consequences. This is yours. He read it. No reply, just silence. And honestly, it was better than any final slap, any legal victory, any petty mic drop. I wasn't angry anymore, and I wasn't even satisfied. I was free. So, that's the end, Reddit. Or at least the end of his chapter in my story. Because I'm still here, still standing, still walking my beach every morning, feeling the tide rise, knowing that I took something broken and made it mine again. Thanks for walking through this with me. And if you're ever in Clearwater, come watch a sunrise. Just stay off the private section. It's strange, isn't it? How life keeps moving after the storm passes. How one day you wake up and realize you're not holding your breath anymore. You're not checking your phone, not flinching when a memory creeps up. You're just living again. That's where I'm at now. It's been about 6 weeks since Carter's desperate voicemail, and Chelsea's meltdown in my parking lot is already the stuff of neighborhood legend. People still talk about it in whispers, how she screamed that I was a witch with a deed and tried to slap Sierra. But after the dust settled, something kind of beautiful happened. People started showing up, not out of curiosity or drama, but to support. Clients came back. Strangers booked sessions just because they saw the documentary and felt something. A woman flew in from Arizona just to do yoga on the Heartbreak Beach. Her words, not mine. The land became a sanctuary. Not just for me, for everyone who's ever had to swallow pain and pretend it didn't matter. For people who got replaced, overwritten, edited out of their own story and told to be the bigger person. Screw that. Sometimes the bigger person is the one who stands their ground, files paperwork, and makes a trespasser cry in designer sandals. And yes, I put up a sign. It's subtle, driftwood with white paint, but it's there. Welcome to Leah's Beach. No trespassing, no erasing, but here's where it gets wild. 2 weeks ago, I found something buried near the dune fence. It was half washed out by the tide. A soaked envelope, warped and sealed with cheap gold foil. Inside, a wedding invitation. Chelsea and Carter. Apparently, they'd mailed the first batch before the beach proposal disaster. It was addressed to someone else. Probably got lost, then ended up in the sea and came right back to me. Full circle. The date? This weekend. Venue? Changed. No longer anywhere near the ocean. And here's the kicker. Someone sent me a screenshot of Chelsea's new registry. You know what's not on it? Sand, seashells, beach, anything. She's pivoted hard. Rustic barn vibes now. Mason jars and burlap. It's like she's trying to erase the erasure. But I don't need to crash their wedding. I don't need to expose them anymore. They already exposed themselves. I'll be spending their wedding day doing sunrise yoga with 3 women who just finalized their divorces, a 70-year-old widow who told me this beach helped her grieve, and a couple from Indiana who got engaged on the right side of the dunes after asking permission. That's the final win, isn't it? Not destroying them, just reclaiming myself. The sky was pink this morning. That soft kind of pink that only happens right before sunrise, like the world is exhaling after holding its breath all night. I was on the beach early, barefoot, warm mug of coffee in my hand, and for the first time in I don't know how long, I didn't think about Carter, I didn't think about Chelsea. I didn't think about who hurt who or who said what or which memory used to live in which patch of sand. I just existed. A little girl, probably 6 or 7, ran past me chasing a hermit crab, laughing so hard she snorted. Her mom called after her, "Careful, that's a protected dune." The kid stopped short, looked up at the sign, and read aloud, "No trespassing, no erasing." Then she said, "That's a weird sign," and kept running. I smiled. Exactly. The beach doesn't remember the proposal, and it doesn't remember the crying or the slaps or the desperation. It only remembers that I came back, that I stood in the spot I was left in and planted a flag. Not out of revenge, not even out of pride, but because it was mine. Because I mattered. Later that morning, one of my yoga clients brought a disposable camera. She asked if she could take a picture of the group facing the water, just as the sun crested the horizon. We said yes. She clicked the shutter and said, "That's going on my wall. I want to remember what healing looks like." And I realized, I do too. So I'm framing one too. A photo of us all. Strong, laughing, barefoot in the morning light. Not because I won, but because I ended it. Because I didn't let the worst day of my life own the ground I stood on. Because I stayed. And because every tide that rolls in now, it's mine. All of it. Every wave, every footprint, every dawn. Mine. Thanks for listening, Reddit. If you're ever nearby, come visit. We do sunrise every Saturday. First class is free. Just don't forget, ask before you enter.